Hi, my name is Rachel Scheer, and I am a certified functional medicine nutritionist here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where I have my own private practice with a team of registered dietitians and nurse practitioners. I went to Baylor and I got my degree in nutrition science and dietetics, but I became interested in functional medicine through a lot of my own health issues, specifically revolving around the gut, hormones, as well as thyroid health as well too. So today I'm going to be showing you a case review of a client that I have been working with who came to me with a bunch of brain fog, anxiety, depression. She was getting acne on her face and her back, chronic bloating and distension, and we utilized a lot of the Vibrant lab testing to look at some of these different areas. We did a gut zoomer on her, which I'm going to be showing you guys today, along with some other different labs. We ran micronutrients on her, food sensitivity, we looked at her hormones, her adrenals, heavy metal toxicities, and through the protocols that we put together, we were able to reverse 100% of our symptoms. And we actually have some really cool before and afters that I'm going to show you. So let's take a look at her before labs and what came back.
So let's take a look at her gut zoomer. So one of the first things that you're going to notice is that her markers for inflammation in her gut was really, really high. So calprotectin, this marker here at the top, is one of the most well-known studies markers when it comes to GI inflammation. And typically we want this below 50, and hers was at about 441.1. And with functional medicine, we're always asking the question, why? Why is there inflammation? Where is this coming from? And what do we need to do to restore function? And in this case, bring down the GI inflammation. So we ran this gut zoomer along with some other various labs. We looked at her omega-3 fatty acids. We looked at her hormones. We also looked for any kind of toxins in her body. And her omega-3 fatty acids were extremely low. So she was very deficient in the EPA, DHA, omega-3 fats, which are really important for keeping inflammation nice and low. So we started with supplementing with some high dose omega-3s, about 4 grams of EPA each day to try to bring up her omega-3 index and help with bringing down some of this inflammation. But diet was also very crucial, of course, as well too, because the foods that we're eating play a big role in how much inflammation we have in the gut. So we started her on an anti-inflammatory diet, and we pulled out a lot of the foods that were causing inflammation: dairy, wheat, gluten. We ran a food sensitivity test on her and pulled out her high food sensitivities. And then along with that, we focused on high quality animal protein, so grass-fed and finished, wild-caught fish, especially to get in some of those omega-3s, pastured chicken. We focused on a lot of mono and polyunsaturated fats, so avocados, olive oils, some nuts and seeds in their raw form, more fatty cuts of fish and walnuts, and then also focused on getting in polyphenol type fruits and vegetables. So polyphenols are what give fruits and veggies their bright colors, and they're really good for bringing down inflammation. This can be like dark chocolate, berries. Resveratrol is also another great type of polyphenol, and you can see that listed there in the comment section. So we focused on pulling out the things that were causing inflammation, and then adding in some more things to help bring down inflammation, and then adding in some more omega-3 fatty acids. But she did also come back with some toxic heavy metals. And that is really, really inflammatory to the body because we hold a lot of these heavy metals in the gut. So we see here that it was her diet. We'll take a look here later on at if there was any leaky gut going on, because that can also be another type of inflammation. So we know right off the bat there's a lot of gut inflammation, which makes sense with a lot of the symptoms she was experiencing, with her skin being inflamed, with her chronic bloating and distension. As we look a little bit further, you'll see here that she also was pretty low in some of her digestive enzyme markers. So pancreatic elastase is a marker for pancreatic enzymes. So this is needed to digest carbs, fats, and protein. And we want this above 200, and she was about 125.1. So she could definitely be experiencing malabsorption, and we can see here at the bottom where we look at actually her fat malabsorption markers, these are on the high side. So we started putting her on some bitters. So you can do a couple of different things if we see low pancreatic enzyme production, sometimes HCl, sometimes actual pancreatic enzymes. But for her, we decided to use some bitters. And bitters are found in foods like arugula, apple cider vinegar, but we actually supplemented with a liposomal form of bitters through a company called Quicksilver Scientific, and she would just take that before each meal. And where this is great is it actually helped her body produce her own pancreatic enzymes, stomach acid, and help with bile flow for fat absorption. So we added that to each of her meals here. Even though her bile acid markers looked pretty good, we just wanted to go more of the bitters route, and we'll see here later on, it actually worked pretty well. So short chain fatty acids, most people haven't heard of these before, but these are postbiotics. So we have a probiotic, which is good bacteria in the gut, and then we have prebiotics, which is what they eat. Typically, these are fibers, different types of resistant starches like green bananas or cooked and cooled rice or potatoes. And these types of fibers and starches feed the good bacteria, and they produce what are called short chain fatty acids. And there's a couple different types of short chain fatty acids. There's acetate, butyrate, propionate, valerate, and then we have a total amount of short chain fatty acids that we're looking at. So butyrate, in my opinion, is one of the most important types of short chain fatty acids because it plays a huge role in coating the gut with this mucus to make it nice and strong and healthy and prevents against things like leaky gut. So this was almost non-existent, you can see there for her, and we want that at least about a 5.1. You can actually supplement with some different types of butyrate salts, but for her, we just tried to make some different dietary changes, and we added in about 2 teaspoons of ghee every single day to her diet because there's about 300 milligrams of butyrate and about 2 teaspoons of ghee, and adding in some of the other different things we did with her diet, the polyphenols, the fruits, the vegetables, the protein. This would actually help her body naturally produce some more of these short chain fatty acids. As we continue on, we'll see a couple of things here. I'm going to start at the bottom. Her fecal zonulin markers were on the high side, so this is indicative of leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So when we have a leaky gut, we get bacteria, foods, and toxins seeping through that gut lining, triggering an immune and inflammatory response. So this was part of the root cause for some of the inflammation she was experiencing. So we wanted to work on repairing this along with all the other things that we had done with her diet, the omega-3s. We decided to add in some glutamine, aloe vera, and licorice root through a powder form that she was taking in the morning. It's a product I use through Metagenics called Glutagenics. And then we also added in some zinc to her routine as well, because zinc is also really important for repairing those junctions that line the gut. So we added in some of these supplements. But we did see that she had come back with those heavy metals, and we weren't working on removing these quite yet. We were just starting with the diet, repairing the gut lining, bringing down the inflammation, adding in these supplements, because if you have a lot of inflammation and you have leaky gut, you typically want to work on repairing that first and foremost before eradicating any heavy metals, because otherwise you may not respond very well and you may get a lot of negative reactions in the body. So we worked on that first and foremost, getting that in a good place. And then later on in the phases of our protocol, we actually did a whole detox protocol to eradicate some of those toxins that were in her system and taking residence there in her gut. This last marker I want to look at, this is called beta-glucuronidase. I know, big word, right? But this is actually produced by a type of anaerobic bacteria in the gut. And it actually makes estrogen to be reabsorbed back into the body. Yes, your gut can be part of the reason as to why you are estrogen dominant. And with her labs, we did see she was a bit low in progesterone, a bit high in estrogen. So she was being estrogen dominant, which can cause PMS cycles. It can also cause some of the skin issues, bloating in some women, mood issues, and then even weight gain, because we know estrogen is going to be more of like that growth hormone. So we could have done an antimicrobial protocol on her, which sometimes I'll do if I think somebody has a lot of bacteria overgrowth. However, for her, we decided just to start on the dietary changes, some of these different supplements, and getting those heavy metals out of her body to see if that would just kind of naturally bring down some of these high levels of bacteria. Because what's so amazing about the human gut is when we pull out the things that are damaging it and we add in the things that are good, it can naturally heal and repair itself and rebalance our microbiome. So this was her initial labs that we did on her, but let's take a look at what we see here after. Let's take a look at her follow-up labs that we did about 5 months later after getting her going on these protocols with her diet, the supplements, leaky gut repair, and then eradicating those heavy metals from her body. So her key ratios of bacteria look absolutely perfect, right where we want them to be. But what's really, really remarkable is the massive amount of inflammation that we brought down in her gut. So that marker for calprotectin that was at about 441.1 before, extremely high, we brought down all the way to about 88.3. Not perfect quite yet, but I know she's probably continuing to make more and more improvement, especially now that we've started her on some different types of probiotics and are continuing to work further on gut healing. But major, major improvement just by everything that we've done with the changes with her diet, supplements, and getting those heavy metals out of her body. Her marker for fecal aciphenol protein is perfectly within range, so that looks so great. And then her markers for pancreatic elastase, if you remember, that was a bit on the low side. So we had put her on some bitters to try to increase her production of HCl and her pancreatic enzymes and try to do it more naturally to help with her own production. And it worked very, very well because her current ranges of pancreatic elastase was at about 239.8. We wanted that above 200. So she has such better absorption now and digestion just overall by adding that into her daily routine with each of the meals. She still had some high levels of fat in her stool, but honestly, I wasn't too worried about it for her. We've also been simultaneously focused a bit on fat loss, and it's normal when we're burning a little bit of fat and losing fat for there to be some elevated markers for fats in the stool, but because there was really no other indicators of any kind of fat malabsorption, her bile acid metabolites and bile flow looked great. And what's so amazing is her short chain fatty acid production. You guys, this was all through diet, through changing her diet, getting her on these supplements. We added that ghee into her diet to help with butyrate production, and it worked incredibly well. So she has perfect levels of short chain fatty acids production, which for her in the long run is going to be very, very preventative because we need butyrate, we need these short chain fatty acids to help with our immune system and to coat that gut and keep it nice and strong and healthy and prevent against any kind of leaky gut. As we continue on and we look at her other two markers that were previously off, Beta-glucuronidase, that was the anaerobic type of bacteria that actually causes estrogen to be reabsorbed back into the body. And through the different changes that we made, her bacteria did rebalance itself back out in that 5-month period of us working on it. And those levels were really, really low. And when we retested her hormones, her estrogen levels also were greatly improved. And she was losing weight, feeling so much better mood, better energy. And then her fecal zonulin markers also were perfectly within range. So we healed the leaky gut, we brought down the inflammation, we rebalanced her gut bacteria, we had adequate short chain fatty acid production. So this was so amazing to see, and it's very, very evident, of course, in all of her photos that I shared with you guys. What's really cool about the remainder of the gut zoomer is it does look at different types of bacteria. She still had a little bit of bacteria that's off, but honestly, no one ever is going to have a perfect gut microbiome. But one of the most important things is just making sure she didn't have any high levels of these gram-negative bacteria that you'll see there with that little negative sign. So this type of bacteria specifically produces an endotoxin, which contributes to a lot of inflammation in the body. And if you combine that with a leaky gut, now we have systemic inflammation throughout the entire body. So it wasn't perfect quite yet. I've never seen a perfect ratio of bacteria with all of these different markers here, but I was really glad to see that she didn't have any of the gram-negative bacteria on the high side. So overall incredible improvement. Her labs show it, her skin shows it, her weight, her bloating, her mood, everything shows it.
How amazing was that? Seriously, she got such incredible results in a 6-month period. And the gut zoomer was such a crucial role to get her hormones on track, to get her skin on track, to reduce that inflammation, to improve her mental health. That brain fog, anxiety, and depression she was dealing with was completely gone. And so much of it was stemming from her gut, which is why I'm a huge believer. You gotta fix the gut, you gotta get that in the right place, because everything else will start to fall in line once we fix that. So if you want to get incredible results just like Ashley, you can check out my website, which is rachelscheer.com. You can fill out an application. We only work with a select type of clients, those who are highly motivated to play a crucial and integral role in their health and really want to take a functional medicine root cause approach, are willing to do the work, willing to make the dietary changes, the lifestyle changes that they need to get incredible results just like Ashley did. So I hope you guys took a lot out of today's case study and learned a lot about what it takes to heal and repair the gut. Everybody is, of course, very unique, and it's an individualized approach. What may work for one person may not work with everybody, which is why it's so important to find a functional medicine specialist, whether that be a doctor or a registered dietitian, to find somebody who can help walk you through this entire process. It's very important to address things in the order that they occur, starting with the gut, starting with inflammation, dietary changes, and then working from there. If we would have started immediately with a heavy metal detox on Ashley, she would have not have responded well because of how much inflammation she had and her gut was leaky. If we would have started immediately with doing some kind of a hormone replacement therapy, because of her hormones being off, she would have gotten great results because it was all stemming from her gut. So just remember, all disease begins and ends in the gut. This has been Rachel Scheer Nutrition.